How do you completely annihilate your closest rival? In the Supercopa de España, Hansi Flick's men put on a complete clinic in this regard, running out rampant 5-2 winners. But this wasn't just a victory. This was a tactical masterclass, a systematic dismantling that left the mighty Real Madrid looking ordinary. Hansi Flick didn't just beat Madrid, he exposed every weakness in their armor. This is exactly how Barcelona broke down Real Madrid. From the first whistle, Barcelona was setting up traps. But to understand the brilliance of them, we need to first look at what makes Madrid so dangerous. In a word, it's simplicity. A solid backline, a well-balanced midfield, and the key, of course, is a lethal attacking trident that strikes fear into the heart of any opponent. But Flick had spotted something. A fatal flaw that would turn Madrid's greatest strength into their undoing. See, Madrid's attacking prowess comes at a cost. Their wingers, Rodrigo and Vinicius, aren't natural defenders. And in modern football, that's an exploitable weakness. So Barcelona didn't just set up to defend against Madrid's attack. They engineered a tactical trap that would force these attacking wingers to become even more of a defensive liability. A traditional back two in the build-up for Barcelona would have been subpar. Mbappe could easily cut the passing lane between the centre-backs, forcing play down one side. Add in Vinicius or Rodrigo joining the press, and Madrid's front three would have been able to suffocate Barcelona's build-up. But Flick had spotted more than a weakness. He'd found Madrid's pressure point. It's no secret that Vinicius and Rodrigo's traits mean they can be weaknesses defensively, which can leave the fullbacks Vázquez and Mendy exposed. The question was, how could Flick exploit this vulnerability? The answer lay in Barcelona's build-up shape. Barca would, whenever possible, build in a back three. In open play, Jules Koundé would tuck in as the third centre-back, drawing Vinicius towards him. This allowed Inigo Martinez, later Kubasi, to drift wider left, baiting Rodrigo into pressing. Even when Rodrigo tried to stay disciplined, the centre-back would advance with the ball until confrontation became inevitable. And this is where Madrid's defensive structure began to crumble. Balde, as always, is an extremely aggressive fullback, so immediately he pushed up beyond Rodrigo, while Rafinha would drift more infield into the half space and beyond, creating a tactical checkmate. The luring in of Rodrigo had massive knock-on effects. Vázquez, a converted winger now at fullback, found himself in a nightmare 2 versus 1 scenario. His options? Stay wide to protect against Balde's runs, leaving Rafinha free to overload the midfield, 4 versus 3. But what actually happened more often was Vázquez was drawn towards the danger man Rafinha, and as a result the speedy Balde was consistently free to receive in the wider region, in positions where he could advance and then whip crosses in. The trap was so effective that Barcelona began manufacturing it from goal kicks. Rather than building up narrow alongside the goalkeeper, the centre-backs would spread to the width of the box, with Szczesny being the third man. Same principle, even deadlier execution. Madrid's wingers were now being drawn even higher up the pitch, creating even more room to exploit against the fullbacks. And that's perfectly shown here, as Araujo and Kubasi split, and the ball is played into the young centre-back. Rodrigo springs forward, and Balde has acres of room. Vázquez is forced to press, because if he doesn't, the Madrid press is immediately broken, meaning that Mbappe and Rodrigo would be out of the game defensively. But again, the 2 versus 1 haunts Real Madrid, and this time Rafinha receives in acres of space, and has time to turn and play Balde into the room created. Only some emergency defending from Valverde saved the day. Madrid were struggling. They tried to adapt. For brief spells, Bellingham would join Mbappe in the press instead of Rodrigo, allowing the Brazilian to stay deeper and match Balde. But solving one problem only created another. With Bellingham pushing up, at best, Madrid were 3 versus 2 down in the midfield. But with Rafinha tucking in, it could be so much worse. And this central overload was a weakness that Barca would soon exploit to devastating effect. But football has a cruel sense of irony. For all of Barcelona's tactical dominance, all it took was one moment, one transition, to remind everyone why this Real Madrid attack is so feared. From Barcelona's own set piece, Balde and Pedri suddenly found themselves in every defender's nightmare, caught high up the pitch with Vinicius and Mbappe breaking at full speed. 2 of the fastest, most lethal forwards in world football, with acres of green grass ahead of them. The result was inevitable. All of Flick's careful tactical planning undone in seconds by Madrid's devastating simplicity in transition. But the setback would only serve to validate Barcelona's game plan, because while Madrid could hurt them in the transition, Barcelona was slowly dismantling them in organized play. The Barca trap had been set in the first half, but it wouldn't pay off until the next. Just before we get there, if you are a tactical nerd who wants to elevate your level of tactical analysis, Tactical Mastery is officially live. Tactical Mastery is my program designed to teach you analysis from the very basics all the way to advanced concepts. But here's the thing, learning concepts and theory is super useful, but I wanted to ensure that you would be able to produce high-level analysis yourself. So on top of the currently almost 9 hours of learning, I've also partnered with my analysis software provider, Once Analyzer, to give you an exclusive discount and extended trial that you literally can't find anywhere else, and will save you well over £100. If that's not enough, Tactical Mastery also contains dedicated modules going through exactly what software I use and how to write tactical analysis in a way that helps you build an audience and grow your portfolio. It's the complete system: tactical education, exclusive discounts on analysis software, and a full walkthrough on how to bring it all together. It's currently an early bird release, so if you act now, you get an extra 10% off using the code EXTRA10. So click the link in the comments or the top link in the description. Early in the second half, Barcelona's patient tactical approach finally bore fruit. The same pattern that had been dominating Madrid all game would now punish them decisively. Once again, the left centre-back drifted wide, the bait that had been drawing Rodrigo all game. This time though, Vázquez was even more aggressive, perhaps frustrated by the constant 2 versus 1s he'd been facing. He rushed to close down the left back, only widening the gap behind him further. But this time, Rafinha did not come deep to support Balde, and instead stayed high. Casado took the reins, making the move into the space created, allowing Rafinha to stay high to take advantage, and he breezed past an out-of-position Tchouaméni to strike. But so much happened tactically before this goal, because a scoreline this dominant doesn't come from just dominating the left-hand side. Instead, Barcelona were dominant down all 3 verticals, and their central play was a thing of beauty. To aid their progression in the deeper zones, they built with their double pivot to ensure they always had a 2 versus 1 against Bellingham, so they could receive and progress easily. The obvious counter would be for Valverde or Camavinga to step up and help Bellingham, but Barcelona had already planned for this. Balde's aggressive positioning allowed Rafinha to drift infield, so more often than not, he was tying up Valverde, a simple movement that prevented Madrid from solving their midfield puzzle. And if that wasn't enough, Lewandowski added another layer of complexity. The Polish striker isn't just a penalty box predator, and has shown more and more completeness as he has aged like a fine wine, so he would be happy to drop deeper into the midfield to ensure there was always a 3 versus 2 against Madrid's deepest midfield layer. Even if the pass to Lewandowski didn't materialize, his movement forced difficult decisions. If Rudiger or Tchouaméni followed him, they'd leave gaps for Rafinha or Yamal to exploit with penetrating runs from that inside position. But the true beauty of the Barcelona shape was the fluidity. Once the double pivot had secured possession, the shape began to change as they moved upfield. Pedri and Casado were interchangeable, as both are comfortable deep, but more often than not, it was Casado who remained deep, freeing Pedri. Pedri could remain alongside Casado, but Barcelona wanted to stagger their pivots to open up new opportunities. So Pedri was given license to roam, and at times the shape could resemble a lopsided diamond, with Rafinha in a higher left role compared to Gavi on the higher right role. This staggering of the lines meant where before Pedri would have been a sideways pass for Casado, now he was an extra progressive option. But where this new shape excelled was that Rafinha and Gavi's wider positioning tied up Madrid's double pivot, creating a chasm through the middle, one that Pedri or the dropping Lewandowski could occupy and receive from freely. Another strong tactical move from Flick's men. If Madrid tried to plug one gap, another appeared somewhere else. But Barcelona's central mastery wasn't about controlling the middle. It was about maximizing their true strength, the wide overloads. We've seen how they terrorized Madrid's right through baiting Rodrigo into a higher press, but Vinicius on the opposite flank was about to face his own defensive nightmare, another winger being asked to do a defender's job. Koundé mirrored Inigo's approach from the left. When in possession, he drove Vinicius forward into a press, leaving the electrifying Yamal isolated against Mendy, a mismatch that would make any defender uncomfortable. But Barcelona had another tactical wrinkle to add through Gavi. With Pedri pushing higher centrally, Gavi would move to the right, ensuring that Barcelona had a 3 versus 2 against that deep double pivot, and each of Valverde and Camavinga were consistently 2 versus 1 down. How could Barcelona make this wide dominance even more pronounced? The answer lay in Gavi's intelligent running. He consistently drifted wide, looking to overload against Mendy. This movement forced Camavinga into an impossible choice: follow Gavi and leave acres of space for Lewandowski or Pedri to exploit, or stay central and leave Mendy in a hopeless 2v1 situation against Yamal and Gavi. The danger of this central overload was on full display in the 18th minute. Inigo is in possession, and this time Rodrigo isn't drawn as he is tracking Balde down the left. left. So as Inigo advances, it's Valverde who pushes up to confront him. So now Rafinha, from his tucked in position, is able to instantly lay it into Pedri, who's making the free run as the overloading midfielder, leading to a shot on goal. All of Barcelona's hard work came together for their opener. The back three spread wide, and Vinicius, initially more conservative, was drawn in as soon as Koundé received the ball. Gavi doesn't hesitate to move wide, dragging Camavinga with him, while at the same time drawing Mendy's attention. With Camavinga out of position, it's the perfect opportunity for Lewandowski to drop in, and this time Rudiger does follow him, not wanting the pole to get the space to turn. This plays right into Barcelona's hand. While Mendy's attention was on Gavi, Yamal slips inside of him, and Lewandowski finds him perfectly to finish. Infinite ways to hurt Real Madrid. As the game progressed, Real Madrid never truly figured out the Barcelona shape. Sure, Rodrigo and Vinicius could begin to drop deeper, but they were being asked to do jobs that did not come naturally to them. So even when they were positionally in the right zone, down the left, Balde would still make the most of Rodrigo's lack of defensive awareness. Down the right, despite starting deep, Koundé would look to arrive late to increase the overload against Mendy, either forcing Vinicius to track back, where there was still a 3 versus 2, while having the benefit of making Vinicius less effective in the offense. And if he didn't track, then this wide triangle consistently wreaked havoc. For all of Barcelona's attacking brilliance, their work without the ball was equally devastating. The possession stats tell a deceptive story, as it ended nearly 50-50. But this wasn't a balanced affair. By the 50th minute, Barcelona were 4-1 up and could afford to ease off. The real story lies in the dominant first half, where Barca had 66% of the ball, as their pressing scheme systematically dismantled Madrid's build-up. Both sides lined up in 4-2-3-1s on paper, but in football, what's on paper rarely tells the full story. So why could Barcelona play through the Madrid press with ease, while Real Madrid struggled to string 3 passes together? The answer lies in how differently these seemingly identical formations functioned. Let's break it down piece by piece. When in possession, up front, Barcelona deployed a lopsided attacking trio. Rafinha tucked into the half space, allowing Balde to push up aggressively on the left. Madrid, meanwhile, maintained a traditional front three, with Bellingham surging forward as the highest of the midfield three to try and support the forwards. But the most pertinent difference is in the deeper zones. Barca used a double pivot, compared to Real, who used a single pivot, entirely dependent on Camavinga. This single difference had several knock-on effects. When Barca was in possession, Rafinha's interior presence also meant Valverde was always 50-50 on who to pick up, meaning they often created the 2 versus 1 in this first phase against Bellingham, allowing them to build up. Real, on the other hand, had a much more rigid and static build-up shape, which made them more predictable and made it easier for Barcelona to still be man-to-man in the midfield. But in the first phase is where the subtleties of football take over. Barcelona built with a wide back three that drew the wingers to the centre-backs. Real, on the other hand, Tchouaméni and Rudiger were always within touching distance of Courtois, a small detail with massive implications. It played straight into what has become Flick's trademark pressing strategy. Rafinha and Yamal tucked infield, perfectly positioned to press Madrid's centre-backs. With Madrid's 3 build-up players bunched together so closely, and the lack of technical security of the trio, just 2 Barcelona pressers could effectively mark them. Meanwhile, Lewandowski dropped onto Camavinga, neutralizing the single pivot. Using 2 men to pick up 3 men initially left Barcelona with a spare man defensively, a luxury that gave them many defensive options. On paper, Madrid appeared to have an escape route through their fullbacks, but Barcelona's extra man allowed for the tactical flexibility to address that. Gavi, rather than pick up Camavinga, would then be able to drift to the right, allowing Koundé to drop deep to form a back 3 which saw Balde ready to press Lucas Vázquez. The result? Complete suffocation of Madrid's short outlet options. Courtois, time and time again, was forced into desperate long balls. But here's the irony. Madrid's electrifying front 3 of Vinicius, Rodrigo and Mbappe, so dangerous in open play, offers virtually nothing in aerial duels. So every Courtois long ball was effectively putting the knife into his killer's hands. The rare occasion Madrid did have success when going long is when they took advantage of Bellingham's aerial mismatch against Casado deep for the flick on. Madrid weren't going down without a fight. Their shift to a double pivot was a desperate attempt to find a way through the Barcelona press, creating a secondary outlet option. But Barcelona's adaptation was ruthless in its efficiency. Instead of tracking the wide options, Gavi joined Lewandowski in and pressing the pivots, while Koundé mirrored Balde's aggressive positioning. Casado dropped deeper, ensuring that no overload could materialize. Every Madrid adjustment was met with an instant Barcelona counter-adjustment. This suffocating defense would soon transform into devastating attack. Barcelona's first goal started from this very pressing trap, but no one benefited more from it than Rafinha for the third. Real are in a back two, narrow, either side of Courtois, and this is a rare occasion that Lewandowski presses rather than picking up the pivot, but the result is the same. Two Barca men can press the building three, while the double pivots are covered. Courtois goes long, but Araujo easily wins the ball against Vinicius, allowing Koundé to have it in acres of space. The Frenchman picks out an unbelievable pass that's only matched by the quality of the finish. This wasn't just a victory, it was tactical warfare executed to perfection. And don't forget to check out Tactical Mastery through the link below if you want to level up your tactical understanding. And remember to use the code EXTRA10 to get 10% more off.